Is cigar sickness a thing? Yes, it is. And trust me, you don't want it. You're tuned in to Smokin' Revelry. Hello. Welcome, everyone. As I said before, you are tuned into Smokin' Revelry. I am your host, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining me. And cigar sickness. What is it? Well, it's definitely not like your cigars catching some kind of disease or something like that. Although I would say that there's variations and things like that can happen to your cigars that aren't good. Mold, tobacco beetles, yes, those are a thing, and you definitely don't want those, but that's not the topic of this video. Now, I'm pretty sure most of us, probably from older generations, from, obviously baby boomers, Gen X, and even millennials, have heard some kind of story about maybe somebody you knew. Maybe it was your dad, maybe it was your mom, or somebody in your family or your friend group, where they started smoking cigarettes, primarily cigarettes. And they tried to hide it from their parents. Obviously, it's a tough habit to hide. Your clothes smell, your breath stinks. You reek after you smoke a cigarette. And usually the urban legend goes that because your parents caught you smoking, instead of just like throwing out some kind of garden variety punishment, they ended up buying you a pack or maybe even a carton of cigarettes, depending on which story you've heard or who told it. And just to teach you a lesson of how bad cigarettes are for you, they made you smoke the whole damn pack or carton. And obviously, naturally, you were sick as a motherfucking dog afterwards. And I mean, obviously, that would happen to anyone if you smoked more than a few cigarettes and you were inexperienced, you haven't been smoking cigarettes much. Obviously those who have been lifelong habitual smokers of cigarettes, they'll smoke anywhere from 2 to 3 packs a day. Incredibly unhealthy, mind you. Usually what happens is like you get massive headache, migraine style headaches, you throw up, you get sick, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a story that a lot of us have heard. I know I heard it from a couple people. My dad had a friend or something. They don't want their kids to smoke cigarettes. So in order to show them how bad cigarettes are, they make them smoke a whole bunch of cigarettes, which to me seems counterproductive. But hey, I guess it could be an effective deterrent to turn people off to want to smoke them, because you get sick as a dog and you're thinking, I never want to look at another cigarette ever again. Never in my life, ever. Well, remove the fact that cigarettes are loaded with a bunch of additional additives and chemicals. And, obviously there's tobacco in it, usually genetically modified tobacco, not the real stuff. I mean, yeah, you're going to get sick. If you smoke way too many of those without having smoked before, you're going to get really sick. However, when it comes to cigars, it can be a whole different kind of experience in getting sick, especially if you're inexperienced. Now, I didn't want to paint this horrifying picture like it's an inevitability that you're gonna get cigar sickness if you've never smoked them before or you don't smoke them that often. The truth is, I think most of us, if not all of us, when we started smoking cigars, we might have experienced it, once or twice. Maybe we experienced it a handful of times, but it really is a thing. And there's a bunch of factors that go into you getting cigar sickness. And I'm going to go over them, talk to you about how to avoid them, but also talk to you about how, if you so happen to be stricken with cigar sickness because maybe you smoked on an empty stomach or you smoked your cigar too fast or something like that, there's a handful of things you can do to actually help alleviate cigar sickness if you so happen to be suffering from it. But by and large, I want to make sure that you understand that this should not put you off cigar smoking. Much like a lot of the, vices, which I prefer to refer as luxuries, like cigars and alcohol and stuff like that, obviously there is a responsible way to consume them. being responsible and being careful, you're going to enjoy it that much more. Now, especially if you are an inexperienced cigar smoker, that can affect you a lot differently than, say, someone like myself or people that I know who have been smoking cigars for years. I remember a long time ago, probably about 5 years ago, I was going to be taking a trip to Arizona, and I was going to be visiting a lot of lounges and stuff like that. Now, I hadn't been smoking cigars frequently for that long up to that point, maybe roughly a year, far more frequently than I had before, which was only maybe once a month or a few times a year prior to the year of 2018. But in 2018, my cigar consumption had a bit of an uptick. I had a stronger desire to smoke more frequently. I mean, 2018 was a crazy year. I won't get into it, but there was a lot of things that happened, and cigars were a wonderful comfort, something that helped me relax, kick back, and kind of reflect on everything. And I just wanted to smoke them more and more. Now, if it had been up to me, I would have smoked them every single day because I enjoyed them that much. But my wife wasn't too keen on that idea because she didn't like the idea of me smelling like cigars all the time. She also had some health concerns, even though I had a discussion with her and helped alleviate those concerns. But this trip to Arizona was going to see me smoking a lot more, way more frequently than I had in the year prior. Like, I was going to be there for about 3.5 days, and I was going to be smoking a lot. From first thing in the morning to right before I went to bed, I knew that's something I wanted to do. So I tried to, before I left, up my consumption of cigars, like having anywhere from 2 to 3 cigars a day for like a 3 to 4 day period. I don't know if it was that smart or advisable, but I did it and I felt fine. I went on the trip. I smoked all day, every day while I was there. I was fine. I didn't find myself suffering from any kind of ill effects from having a little bit more nicotine in my system. Now, because cigars are pure tobacco, no additives, no chemicals put into them or anything like that, just pure fermented tobacco, you're going to get a lot more nicotine than, say, you would in like a cigarette or some other tobacco product. And if you're not used to it, it is going to, well, for lack of a better term, fuck you up. But again, I don't want to scare you, so let's go over what you can do to avoid it, and if you so happen to get cigar sickness, what you can do to combat it. So let's go into some of the causes that can provoke cigar sickness in you if you're not careful. And I highly recommend consulting somebody who is a seasoned cigar smoker, so that way you can get some tips and advice on what not to do. Now, if you do not have any such person in your life, you don't know anybody who smokes cigars, then allow me to be that person to pass on some sagely advice. First, a little story. Now, this was a long time ago. I'm talking 20 plus years ago when I first started smoking cigars. Now, obviously, I was just as green as any other cigar smoker during that time. My dad was the one who got me into smoking cigars. He took me to buy my first one on around my 19th birthday. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. Now, the first cigars I smoked, flavored or infused cigars, which a lot of us started with. Great way to get into cigars if you're not entirely sure how you're going to enjoy the flavor or the taste. So if you want to start there, perfectly fine and acceptable, which is what I did. And then I decided to move on to the big leagues, I guess. I don't know. I wanted to smoke more popular, well-known cigars, especially the kind that my dad smoked. And my dad had gone on and on about Cubans. Obviously, living in the US, you can't just easily get Cubans from any old cigar shop. So I went to this only cigar shop near where I lived at the time, and I asked the guy, I said, what's the closest thing you've got to a Cuban? Now, I don't remember what it was. It might have been like a Monte Cristo or something like that. I purchased it. I went home. Now, at the time, thankfully, her attitude has changed quite a bit. In fact, she smoked with me. My mother did not like the fact that I smoked cigars. In fact, she kind of hated it, if memory serves. So I waited until she wasn't home, and I decided to go into the backyard and light up this cigar. Now, one thing the guy told me to be careful about is what I did before smoking, which is very important because he said, make sure you have some food in your stomach before you smoke, because this cigar is a little on the stronger side. Now, I kept that in mind. I didn't forget about it, but I did not really prepare myself all that much. And another snag to this whole situation was the fact that I didn't have a whole lot of time to smoke it. I actually had to work in a relatively short period of time. I had to go to my job and work a shift. and I didn't allow myself enough time to properly smoke and enjoy the cigar. Add to that, I didn't have a full-on meal, so what I tried to do is I tried to eat like a bunch of Triscuits or something, a bunch of crackers. I remember I ate like it was not sufficient. What I had was a snack. It was not a meal, and it was not enough to help me during this time that I was trying to enjoy the cigar. So 2 things against me: mostly empty stomach, not a whole lot of time. So because of the time crunch, I smoked the cigar a little too fast. 2 rookie mistakes in 1 smoke session. One I was aware of, the other not so much. Needless to say, the crackers did not help, and the fact that I was just smoking this thing down so quickly, it really did me no favors. And so I was feeling a little bit not so great after smoking that cigar. I had a headache, I felt nauseous, and I had to go to work. So I had essentially screwed myself while trying to enjoy a new cigar. And I almost completely ignored every bit of advice that guy gave me. Especially if you're inexperienced, you're not used to smoking cigars, it's not something you do regularly to where your body and your system might be used to it. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So first and foremost, make sure you have eaten something prior to smoking. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger has actually said that, something his former father-in-law had passed on to him, the one who got him into cigars, saying after dinner, everyone ought to have a cigar. Notice that he said after dinner. It's actually very enjoyable to have a cigar after a meal, especially if you've had like a really nice, flavorful meal, like a juicy steak or something like that, or if you've had some wine with that meal, you've had a nice full meal before you smoke. And once you've kind of had that experience on your palate, that kind of enhances the experience on your palate when you're smoking, so you can kind of notice a little bit more of the different flavors a cigar is giving off, because you have already allowed your taste buds to enjoy a delicious meal. So they're activated, they're ready, and so they're a little bit more sensitive to what you're going to experience on your palate while smoking. So eat something. Definitely eat something before you smoke. And number 2, don't smoke fast. Smoking a cigar quickly, one, ruins the experience, really, because it's not a cigarette, it's not a vape, it's not anything like that. It's a cigar. It's meant to be enjoyed at a leisurely pace. Take your time. Make sure you have the time, for one. Unlike me, that with the story I just told you, I did not allow myself enough time to properly enjoy the cigar, and I ignored the advice that the guy gave me about eating beforehand. So take your time. Don't be in a rush. Make sure you have a nice bit of time carved out, because depending on the size of the cigar, I'm smoking a Robusto right now, and I'm already more than halfway through it. I haven't been smoking it that long. I've been smoking it roughly, just under an hour. And, a smaller cigar, you don't need as much time with. And even if you are taking your time, a Robusto, I think ideally, you can smoke anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour 15. Now, that may not seem like much time, but when you're trying to enjoy a cigar, you want to make sure you have the time carved out. This is not a quick thing unless you're smoking like a cigarillo or something like that, something small and easy. You want to make sure you have the time carved out. Don't smoke quick, don't puff it, and all that kind of stuff, because that just ruins the enjoyment, and you're absorbing nicotine way too fast, and that can lead to you, again, like I said, getting a bad headache, feeling sick to your stomach, and yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. Number 3, and this really should go without saying, but I'm actually kind of amazed at how few people might know this. People who are just getting into cigars. Now, I knew this beforehand. My dad made it perfectly clear to me. You do not inhale cigar smoke, or at least not intentionally. You're not supposed to inhale it, because, again, pure tobacco leaves right here. So the concentration of nicotine is much higher than, say, like a cigarette or some other kind of tobacco product, because this is the real deal, the genuine article. And so if you inhale it, your body's going to absorb the nicotine way too fast. If you're leisurely enjoying a cigar, the nicotine is going to be absorbed through your mouth, through your saliva, and it's going to slowly get into your system. Now, I don't want you to freak out or go oh, nicotine is just deadly, it's bad for you. Actually, it's not. You don't believe every single commercial or ad that you see saying nicotine is a deadly addictive chemical. honestly, when it comes to cigars, even though I've been smoking them for years, I can go for weeks without smoking one of these. You know, even if I were to say smoke like one every day for a week or one every day for several months, if there was a time I needed to, you know, abstain from smoking because of life circumstances, things going on, I don't have enough time, I'm in a busy season, I don't always have time to sit down and smoke. In fact, lately, I have had far less time to smoke than I normally do. And honestly, while I'm not smoking, I'm not sitting around like rocking back and forth, shaking, or how you're jonesing for a cigar. Yeah, I'm looking forward to my next cigar, but I don't feel like I'm going to lose my mind or I'm going to snap or be all stressed and irritable if I don't get a cigar in quick. Nicotine is not the addictive chemical, although I would say you could probably develop a dependence on nicotine over time if you smoke too much. But then again, I haven't really seen too much documentation in regards to cigars. People that I know have been smoking for years who smoke every single day, smoke several cigars a day, especially those in the industry. They haven't had any health issues or anything pop up in their regular checkups and things like that. And the research doesn't necessarily support that nicotine is what's addictive when it comes to cigarettes. It's usually the chemical compounds and additives that they throw in. You may disagree with me about that if you like. That's fine. But I have honestly done a lot of research to try and make sure that, you know, especially when my wife was concerned about my health, I made sure to dig deep and find the proper research from credible sources that would put her concerns at ease about cigars affecting my health negatively. Now, is it possible for cigars to affect your health negatively? Yes, but that's a whole other discussion. And again, if you're enjoying them in an irresponsible fashion, you're more likely to experience health complications, or if you have pre-existing health conditions. But again, that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, back to what I was originally talking about. Don't inhale this. First of all, cigars have way more strength to them. Even a lighter, you know, milder cigar can honestly knock you on your ass if you're not careful. And if you decide to inhale it, it's just, you really don't want to do that. I'm going to list 2 examples how bad inhaling cigar smoke is for you. But first, I'm going to show you a clip. And I should note that if you have not seen Deadpool and Wolverine, this is going to be a spoiler. So if you don't want to see it, skip ahead.
Now we're talking. Oh, yeah. That's the whole goddamn package right there. You know, from behind, you look a little bit like Henry. Oh, my fuck! The Cavalry. The legends are true. And may I say, sir, on behalf of all humanity, this just feels right. We will treat you so much better than those shit fucks down the street. You were just leaving. No, sir. Not while the fate of my universe is at...
I was honestly super jazzed to see Henry Cavill in his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine. I loved the entire movie. The whole movie was just a love letter to fans. I really enjoyed it. But I thought that was a really cool addition to the film. Henry Cavill playing a Wolverine variant. I thought it was pretty awesome, pretty exciting. But here's the thing about that scene. That scene doesn't last more than a minute. In fact, I think it lasts less than a minute. They were actually shooting that scene and stuff like that for about 8 hours. Now, as you may have noticed, Henry Cavill has a cigar in his mouth. That's a real cigar, not CG smoke or anything like that. He was committed to playing the part, even though it was a very small part in a very small, you know, section of the movie, very short. But Henry Cavill, he's a committed guy, and he kept that cigar lit the entire time. Now, the problem is he was shooting for 8 hours, okay? 8 hours is a long time for anything, especially like if you're working a shift or you're traveling somewhere, you're driving or you're on a flight. 8 hours is a long time. Now, obviously, he's doing something he loves. He's an actor. He loves his craft. He's committed to his craft, and he wants to make sure he embodies the character he plays for however long or short a period of time he's playing that character. He kept that cigar lit the entire time, and unfortunately, he inhaled quite a bit of cigar smoke. Now, I don't know if it was the same cigar for the entire 8 hours. If it was, that's insane. Or if he like lit another cigar or something like that. I don't know if Henry Cavill smokes cigars regularly, but because he kept it in his mouth for such a long time, maybe not puffing on it or taking it out regularly enough, or just the concentration of smoke around him. Because I will say this, if you are in an area where there's a lot of cigar smoke, whether it's just from you or you and other people, chances are you're going to inhale a little bit of it. You just kind of have to be careful. It's really good to be in a place where it's properly ventilated, whether it's open air or you're in a lounge that has a really good air filtration system. Up above my head is a fan that pulls the smoke out of my studio through some insulated stuff and then blows it outside. So apologies to my neighbors if you're smelling cigar smoke right now. Actually, I'm not sorry, but hey, heads up, you're gonna smell a little bit of cigar smoke coming out the side of my house. If I didn't have that, I would be hotboxed in here. I would be constantly inhaling cigar smoke, and that's not something that I want. I have a fan going in front of me, and I have the fan pulling the cigar smoke out of my studio. That was essential to building this studio if I was going to be shooting cigar content, because I don't want cigar filling this room and choking me out. So apparently Henry Cavill, because he kept the Scarlett the entire time, he kept it in his mouth. Maybe he wasn't properly puffing on it, or he wasn't enjoying it like he should have, and he was inexperienced smoking. I don't know, but he was sucking down quite a bit of cigar smoke, and as a result, he got pretty sick. I feel bad for the guy, but it was a pretty cool, badass part. I really enjoyed it, and I honestly loved the nod to Mission Impossible with the whole arm reload with his claws and everything like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, moving on. Another guy, I used to work with this guy, and he hung out with me and my friend Cigar Show Tim and another friend I worked with as well. We went to this place. It's no longer near me. It was a place called Burning Desire Cigar Lounge. It was the only cigar lounge near me for quite a bit, for at least 20 miles or so. And I would go there as often as possible, and it was my first time hanging out there. And one of the guys, I won't mention his name, but he was enjoying cigars with us, and I'm fairly certain I told him, because he said he hadn't smoked cigars before. I said, don't inhale. You don't want to inhale cigar smoke. If I'm being 100% honest, this guy wasn't the brightest bulb in the box. I don't say that to be mean, but he just had a way about him. And yeah, he was a little odd, to say the least. And we're smoking. We've been there for roughly an hour or so. And then at one point, he kind of takes me aside and he's like, hey, I got a question. I'm like, okay, what's up? And he says, are you not supposed to inhale cigar smoke? I'm like, no, you're absolutely not supposed to inhale cigar smoke. And I got one look at him and his face was flushed and red. His eyes were glassy. I could tell he was not feeling so hot. And I'm like, dude, don't inhale it. You puff it. You kind of like taste the smoke and, enjoy the flavor. Blow it out. Don't inhale the smoke. That's bad. Okay? Don't do that. You don't know. It was quite a sight. It was quite a sight to see. And I was like terrified this guy was going to puke in the middle of this lovely little cigar lounge. Thankfully he didn't. He only had the one cigar and then he decided to head home. But yeah, I was a little surprised, because I'm almost like, I'm 99.9% sure I told him, don't inhale. It's not a cigarette. It's not a vape. Don't inhale. And he didn't listen, and he paid the price. So don't inhale cigar smoke. The strength of cigars is far more significant than cigarettes or vapes and stuff like that. Not meant to be inhaled, meant to be enjoyed on the flavor palette and then blown out. Pure and simple. In fact, just for laughs, here's another clip, this time of me while I'm shooting some video, accidentally inhaling and then actually swallowing cigar smoke. So enjoy these 30 seconds of hilarity. God damn it. Ugh. It was the first time I've actually inhaled cigar smoke. Fuck. I can be such a dork, and usually it happens on accident. It's almost never intentional. There are times I'm a dork on purpose, but for the most part, I usually just end up doing something silly or cringeworthy or embarrassing. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I think that was honestly the first time I'd ever done it like that, or that's happened to me. It was crazy. So yeah, it got caught on camera. All the best moments Caught on camera. Now, those are kind of the main ways to avoid cigar sickness, or ways you can get cigar sickness. Obviously, don't do the things that I just talked about, but if you do them, if you ignore all advice or you forget, yeah, those are surefire ways to make yourself feel sick, especially if you're inexperienced. And I'm going to go over the following ones rather quickly, kind of rapid fire, because there's a lot to get into. And I also want to get into how you can essentially cure and treat your cigar sickness if you so happen to be afflicted with it. Chain smoking. Cigars are not meant to be chain smoked. Now, you can smoke cigars fairly close together. I know a lot of industry people who, they smoke cigars all the time, every day, all day. It's part of their job description, especially if they're testing out new blends or whatever, or they're going to events and they're repping their company or whatever, brand that they are either the manufacturer of or they are selling or representing. You're going to be smoking quite frequently. And I would recommend, personally, for someone who's relatively experienced with cigars, probably smoking no more than like 3 to 5 cigars a day. I think you should kind of max out at that. Some people can smoke more. You think about somebody like George Burns. He smokes close to he smoked 20 cigars a day in his 90s. Okay, this guy lived a long life. He died at a very ripe old age, and he smoked cigars a lot, and it was kind of hilarious, especially that little moment on Johnny Carson where he talked about how many cigars he smoked a day, how much he enjoyed it, how exciting his life is. And Johnny Carson asked about what his doctor said, and he replied, "My doctor's dead." So he outlived his doctor while smoking 15 to 20 cigars a day. God bless him. Obviously, it took a while for him to get to that point. Probably as a lifelong cigar smoker, it took a long time for him to build up that kind of tolerance. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. He's a badass. He was a badass. Continues to be a legend. But yeah, I would smoke no more than a few cigars a day because you need to allow time for the nicotine to get out of your system. So yeah, maybe don't chain smoke cigars. Smoke a few in a given day within 24 hours. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a problem. Just, again, be careful, know your limits, and try to do it in moderation, especially if you're new to this. And also, stay hydrated. Really, honestly, stay hydrated. I know a lot of times when you see people smoking cigars, they're drinking wine, they're drinking whiskey, cognac, rum, some type of really nice, spirit or liquor. And yeah, you can definitely enjoy cigars with those things, and they enhance the experience a lot of the time. I enjoy having a glass of bourbon or scotch with my cigars. It's really wonderful. It's a very nice thing. But I don't go into that like dehydrated. I need to make sure, I try to make sure I drink a lot of water every day, anywhere from 40 to 60 ounces. I try to drink a little more than that just because, one, it's hot, and two, if I don't drink water regularly, I carry around this big ass flask with me everywhere. In fact, this is it. And then I got a bunch of, obviously cigar stickers all over it and whatnot. But yeah, I need to stay hydrated, especially if I know I'm going to be smoking a cigar. If you're not staying hydrated, it's not going to be a pretty thing. It's not going to be a fun experience. You're going to get a headache from being dehydrated. And if you're smoking cigars without being hydrated and you're inexperienced or you're smoking too much, yeah, you're going to feel nasty. So stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking water all throughout the day and even during the time you're smoking cigars. And fun fact, drinking water can actually help cleanse your palate a little bit and open up your palate a little bit more to enjoy the cigars you're smoking. So, bonus. Also, the size of the cigar can affect you negatively if you're not careful. Let's just say you want to go with the whole go big or go home, and you decide to buy yourself a nice big Churchill or something with a really big ring gauge, a really nice thick fat cigar. Those can be fun to smoke here and there. Now, again, if you're not smoking regularly, you only smoke every now and then, and you decide to go to a lounge and pick out a big, robust cigar, okay? Those can be really fun to smoke, and you can look really cool smoking it. Might not be a good idea if you're ill prepared, because then you'll just end up feeling ill. So maybe pick a smaller Vitola, like, again, a Robusto. A Robusto is a pretty small size, maybe a Perfecto, roughly around the same size. Torpedoes can vary in length, but get yourself kind of a smaller torpedo, like, I would say roughly this big. I don't know how this looks on camera, but you know, the camera exaggerates everything. Ha ha ha. Sorry. Including cigar sizes. So I would recommend picking a smaller size cigar just to avoid anything unpleasant. And also a little shit, ashed all over myself. Yeah, don't do that either. Don't do that either. Try not to do that. Nah, it's unavoidable. Everybody does it. But another little tidbit I didn't consider that I was reading about when I was doing some of my research was choosing handmade cigars over machine-made cigars. Tobacco leaves that haven't been aged long enough, maybe they contain traces of pesticides, because obviously when you're growing tobacco, you need to care for it, you need to keep the pests away. Now hopefully they're using like more of a natural pesticide as opposed to a chemically laden pesticide, but obviously when the tobacco goes through the aging process, the leaves are washed, they're cleansed, so that way they're ready for proper aging, because you don't want to send them in with a bunch of chemicals all over them. So you want to make sure that you're getting quality tobacco in the cigars you're purchasing, and sometimes machine-made cigars can kind of cut some corners here and there. Handmade cigars are made with a lot of love and care. In fact, you may have heard this before, maybe not. Usually they say roughly 300 hands touch a cigar before it's put on the shelf. You know, there's a lot of things that go into, making a cigar and processing the tobacco. And they're the harvesters, those who age the tobacco, those who roll the cigars, all of that kind of stuff. So handmade cigars are really, honestly, the way to go. Handmade cigars are always made with a lot of love and care, and there's some craftsmanship to it. Machine-made cigars, not so much. All right, we've gone over all of the potential causes of cigar sickness. Now let's talk about how we can combat cigar sickness if you're unfortunate enough to be in the middle of it. I would say it's probably a good idea to put the cigar down if you're starting to feel sick. I mean, you got people sometimes drinking too much, and instead of stopping drinking when they know they should, knowing your limits, people, they keep drinking, they regret it, they black out, they get sick, they feel like shit the next day because of a hangover, and it's just not pretty. And obviously, cigar sickness isn't as bad as saying having, getting sick from alcohol or, getting absolutely wrecked and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you might want to put the cigar down. Something Henry Cavill should have done when he was shooting those scenes for Deadpool and Wolverine. But again, he was committed and he decided to keep the cigar lit in his mouth. And I mean, it looked great, but he paid the price for it. So put that cigar down now! If you're feeling gross, probably a good idea. Just stop smoking. Just put it down. If you're not already outside, let's say you're in a lounge or in your space like mine, go get some fresh air. Yeah, walk outside. Go outside, breathe air that is not filled with smoke, okay? You want to make sure you're able to breathe some fresh air and you're not inhaling anything else. Get to a space where you can breathe a little bit easier and freer. Next thing, again, obviously, hydrate. Get some water in your system. Maybe grab some Gatorade or something like that. Probably better to do a non-flavored type of drink, something that doesn't, isn't full of a bunch of crap. But I would say drink some water as much as you possibly can. Again, don't drink too much too fast because that will also make you feel sick. Grab a few sips, stop, get some fresh air, take a few more sips, relax. Allow yourself to breathe and your system to acclimate and your system to kind of just, not feel so gnarly. Because, yeah, it's a big deal. You want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and you can't properly enjoy cigars if you're feeling sick. So, yeah, drink some water, get some fresh air, relax, wind down. And another thing you can do, and I've heard this a few times, I've never actually had to do this myself, because again, I think the only real time that I had cigar sickness was when I was much, much younger and I was first smoking cigars. I haven't really had an experience like this since, thankfully. Even with the frequency at which I smoke, I tend to do okay. Like, I'll be honest, 100% honest right now, and you're going to think I'm a goddamn hypocrite. I have no food in my system. I'm actually doing intermittent fasting, and I'm trying to eat cleaner, but I stop eating at 9:30 at night. I don't eat again until 1:30 in the afternoon. It is currently 11:30. I haven't eaten a thing, but I have had a lot of water today, just to kind of you know, clean out my system and feel good, you know, be hydrated. I don't have food in my system. I'm feeling okay. I probably could use a little bit more caffeine because normally I've had 2 or 3 cups of coffee by this point. I've only had an energy drink. Maybe that was ill-advised, but it was a sugar-free energy drink with apparently has some lion's mane in it, which is supposed to help you focus. And I actually feel pretty focused and pretty rip-roaring ready to go to tackle my day, including this video. You can call me a hypocrite if you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But moving on to the little tidbit that I've heard, you may have heard it too, get yourself a spoonful of sugar. I'm not kidding. A spoonful of sugar will help. The reason why it helps is because it counters the effects of the nicotine and actually helps calm your stomach. So a spoonful of sugar really does help the medicine go down. I mean, not really medicine, but you get my point. So get like a packet of sugar if you have any handy, or just a spoonful, or you can have some chocolate or ginger candy. Those will both not only give you the sugar you need to combat the nicotine in your system, but they both have calming effects on the stomach. So yeah, grab yourself some sugar, grab yourself some chocolate, grab yourself a little ginger candy or whatever, and sit back, relax, and drink some water while you're getting some fresh air. It actually sounds pretty relaxing when you think about it. So, I mean, just do that anyway, even if you're not suffering from cigar sickness. It sounds pretty chill and pretty sweet. Sorry. No, I'm not. I don't know why I apologize. Lame jokes are part of the program, people. All that being said, everybody's different. Everybody responds to cigars differently. Even people who are seasoned smokers are not immune from this. Like, sometimes you can be having a good old time hanging out with a bunch of other cigar smokers. Maybe you're at an event, maybe you're at a party, something where cigars are handy and being passed out like it's going out of style. And you're smoking one cigar after the other. Maybe you're not thinking about your water intake, your food intake. Maybe you're drinking a little too much alcohol, and you find yourself feeling pretty gross. You don't feel good. Your stomach hurts. Your head hurts. It's not pleasant. So even seasoned cigar smokers aren't 100% immune to it. They're less likely to suffer from cigar sickness because they're already acclimated to smoking cigars on the regular. But again, enjoy responsibly, know your limits, know when you should probably stop, put down the cigar if you need to, do all those things that I just mentioned before. You really want to make sure you're taking care of yourself so you can actually enjoy these with, you know, some relative frequency. Every now and then or every day, just make sure you're not overdoing it. But that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you never heard of cigar sickness before. Maybe you've never experienced it, or you did experience it and you didn't know what was going on. I hope those bits of information and tips help, so that way you can avoid it. Or if you're experiencing it right this second, like you're watching this video and you're like, I don't feel so okay. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. I'm going to go get me some sugar. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that helps, you know, because, you know, cigars are a luxury. They are considered a vice, a very nice vice, if I may say so. And, but like all luxuries and vices, they can have their drawbacks, and you just want to make sure to avoid those drawbacks so you can enjoy them all that much more. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and also like this video. Drop a comment. I love talking with you guys and interacting. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and showing your support. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, taking good care of yourselves, keeping it smoky as always. And of course, I will see you guys next time.